All right, we're live.
Awesome.
Hello. Welcome everybody to Wind Down Wednesday, the August edition. How are you, Aisha and Lee? I miss you all.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm being serious.
You're on mute.
Whew, I've been doing Zoom calls all day, but I miss you too. We all miss you, Monique.
Mm-hmm. That was not for show, that was serious. The chats, the text messages are not the same. It's actually being in person, but that's why we have Wind Down Wednesday.
Yes, you're on a mission. You are handling your business in the DMV.
I am handling my business in the DMV.
Your business.
Handling my business so much so that I am exhausted. I am so tired. It's only day 3 of the first week of classes, but I just still keep reminding myself, this is what you said you wanted to do. It is absolutely what you wanted to do. So get it done.
Yes, we cannot wait to address you as Dr. Monique Wingard. Yes, the doctor in the house.
Or nothing else, Wingard.
Right.
Wingard. Yes. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and hop into our intros. Welcome to the August edition of Wind Down Wednesday, everyone. My name is Monique Wingard.
I'm Aisha Jefferson.
And I'm Lee Edwards.
And Will Jones, who is normally the host, I would say he normally hosts. Okay, the other member of the Wind Down Wednesday crew, he is on vacation. He is on a romantic getaway. Let's tell all his business. Okay.
Right. 1 year anniversary.
1 year anniversary vacation, having a good time. So I went ahead and stepped in for the bishop. We call him Bishop Jones.
Pastor Bishop. Pastor Reverend Bishop
Will Jones, to make sure that we continue the business of the organization by having meaningful conversations. And so part of that would be the announcements. And first on the list is who won the election, the national elections, Lee.
Yes, indeed. So I believe that only one of the races was actually contested. That was the race for NABJ national president. And our good friend, colleague, and partner, Dorothy Tucker, the incumbent president, won again. She was re-elected with I believe she won with 83% of the vote and a total of 531 votes. And her opponent, Manuel Smith, received 111 votes or 17%. So it's fantastic to have Dorothy right back at the helm.
Yes, well-deserved win. Well-deserved. A lot of people spoke up and spoke out and supported Dorothy. Myself, we all did. Just how she has been there for a lot of members. A lot of things behind the scenes, supporting people, supporting local chapter presidents, and doing a lot of really cool stuff. She's a great mentor to a lot of journalists. So, in NABJ, we made the right call.
Absolutely. And so the virtual conference, did anyone, Aisha, I think you said you attended?
I registered and I went to a couple of things. My work schedule was kind of busy, like doing work stuff, doing my side hustle stuff, like it was a little busy. So fortunately, there's on demand. And so that is what I'll be doing over the next 2 weeks, because I believe it's available until I think September 7th or something like that. So I'll be catching up. I was only able to, go to a few sessions. There was a cool entrepreneurs event Saturday morning that, I listened to and everything and hopped in, but I'll be catching it virtually.
That is the beauty of having things in digital formats. Yes. That we can still catch up and be in the know and be aware of what's going on, what did we miss, and to be selective about how we spend our time at the virtual conference. Because you can pick and choose what you want to watch.
Yes.
You can scroll on by.
Yep. Right. Right.
Keep it moving.
I did enjoy my meal though, my complimentary meal.
the conference hadn't even started yet and I had food on the way. So full transparency. Thank you, NABJ.
Yeah.
Until my funding comes through, yes, absolutely. I did absolutely call Grubhub a day before the conference to have dinner, a real dinner for that matter. So next. We are going to be having a really great discussion later tonight, and it will be focusing on student chapters. And before we jump into that conversation, I just wanted to mention a few important points, and that is that NABJ Chicago plans to ramp up support and engagement with student chapters. With that said, NABJ Region 2, we invite all student chapters in Region 2, and I think it would be safe to say if you're not in Region 2, you're welcome. You are a welcome guest on Wind Down Wednesday to come and talk to us about what your current future plans are for the chapter. And because we're all family, to talk about the challenges, because people want to know what those are so that they know how to help. Where can we all jump in and show support for our student members and chapters? But specifically, the Chicago chapter has many times when I was a member actually there in the city, and even now when I'm not in the city, the mentorship chair, Evan Moore, has been very vocal about the fact that he plans to do quite a bit with mentorship. And so I am going to, Evan, I'm putting your email address out there. So if you are interested in being a mentor or you are looking for a mentor, please email Evan. If you're interested in being on the committee, because a very important aspect of being a member of any chapter of NABJ is that you join a committee to make sure that, again, the business of the organization is able to continue with the help of all involved. And you're paying dues to be there, so why not get together and have fun while you're working. So that's Evan's email address is Evan, EVAN @nabjchicago.org.
And I just wanted to also add, and I don't think I'm doing this prematurely, but I'm on a committee where we're planning a cool event, really informational event, informative event next month with the DePaul University student chapter. So be on the lookout for that, answering your questions, talking to some heavy hitters locally in Chicago. So don't want to say too much, but you'll be on the lookout in the coming weeks about that event in September.
That is not premature at all. That's good news.
Yes.
That is proving the point of what I just said, that the Chicago chapter, we're not playing games.
You're not. We are not.
That this is what we want to do. That is what is happening. So to increase engagement. And Lee, I know this is something that you're really passionate about in terms of the actual engagement. So we're talking about support, but the actual outreach. And why is that?
It's really important just to recognize that, as media and as the industry changes so much, that we can be a bridge at NABJ and also NABJ Chicago to help all those people to reach their goals and find their footing sooner than they normally would. And that's so hard because a lot of us, whether we come from college, graduate degree, or still in high school, we want and see ourselves in this industry, but we want to make sure that the barriers of entry are as few and far in between, and also that the people who are in the industry now don't become gatekeepers themselves. And so it takes consistent effort and also tangible goals for people to be able to see, like, okay, by being in NABJ Chicago, this is what's going to happen, and this is what we can expect. And the support is not contingent on any one or two things. So it's definitely a great way to sort of give back, and also something great to be a part of.
Absolutely. And I think we would all agree that we need more Black journalists.
We do. We need those stories to be told. we are not a monolith, and there's so many complexities and beautiful things, and some things that may not be as beautiful, but we are multi-layered, and those we have a lot of different stories, and there's not one way to be Black, and so we need diversity amongst ourselves, also when telling various stories. So yes, if you are thinking about it, join, and and just know that you're needed. You're needed. There's so many times where I've only been the only Black person in the newsroom, or one of a few in the newsroom. So we need that diversity, because our communities that where we reside, they need that type of representation too.
Absolutely. And so with that said, we are excited that we have a student voice joining us today. And this is not just any student voice. And when I say it's not just any student voice, I mean that this student voice comes from the great state of Ohio.
See the background, we see you representing back there.
The great state of Ohio. I'm representing the whole Midwest tonight. So we got Aretha, Detroit, Michigan, and then all the swag that the Ohio State University sends me in the mail every time I give them a check. I get some nice paper that I can put on the walls. But I would prefer a t-shirt. Send me some clothes. Send me some water bottles. But yes, we have a student voice from the great state of Ohio, and we just have to brag for a moment, because Aisha, as you know, we do love you. But not only am I from Ohio, Lee, where are you from?
Cleveland. Well, actually, Beechwood. So if you're from Ohio, you know what I'm talking about. Beechwood.
Beechwood, Ohio. Okay.
216.
216. 937. Right here. Okay. Where is our president? Okay. President Brandon Pope, Ohio.
A great son of Ohio. Where's Brandon from? He's from Cincinnati.
Oh, let's get it right now, Brandon. If you're watching, I'm not monitoring Facebook comments tonight, so Brandon is normally in the comments. So I hope you got his city right. But
I know
most importantly,
Cincinnati.
Okay, we know he is from the great state of Ohio. And last but not least, Gail. Okay, the person who keeps us in line, the parliamentarian. Where's Gail from? The great state of Ohio. Okay. And tonight.
Oh, and you forgot one person now.
You lying.
The pastor, the good brother Reverend. The pastor.
Lord Will. I hope you're not somewhere watching this right now. Everybody tell Will Jones not to watch the replay. Okay.
Yes. Also, he's from Cincinnati, yeah.
Will Jones, okay? Our Will Jones, ABC 7, Chicago, from Ohio. Yeah. So I think Gail calls us the Ohio Consortium.
Yeah, you all, I have to give it to you all. I had to sit back and and hush my mouth. Y'all are everywhere in this.
we just taking care of business, doing what we were,
we
were raised right.
Wait a second now. I don't know how to take that.
Not to say that other people were not, but we can confirm. Okay. And in the great state of Ohio, we were raised right. Okay.
Well, I will say this much: you all are great representations. I will say that much.
Thank you, Aisha.
You all are great representation. I thought the best was probably Steve Harvey, but you all have said nope. Look, we represent.
I'm gonna let you have that. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because I like Steve. And I'm not ashamed to say it. Okay?
I never said I didn't like it. I'm just saying that was just one example, and now I have other examples.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
As long as we're all clear, because some people try to come for me with that one, and I just that's okay though, because we love Steve. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
one of your brothers.
With that said, we invite to the NABJ stage, NABJ's CC stage, Wind Down Wednesday stage, Mr. Wedly Cazy. Welcome. And just a little bit about Webley. He is, okay, is an alumnus of the Ohio State University. He graduated with his BA in strategic communication with a specialization in retail immersion and marketing. During his time at the Ohio State University, he served as the marketing director for NAACP, PRSSA, and NABJ, where he founded No Filter with NABJ, which I'm going to pause for a second and invite everybody to go to the NABJ. Is it at NABJ-OSU Instagram?
Yes.
And please watch the latest episode of No Filter with NABJ. And Webley is, he currently works for Warner Brothers and has worked on movie campaigns such as Space Jam, Mortal Kombat, Suicide Squad, and The Conjuring. And his hobbies include traveling and nature walks. How about it? Okay, welcome.
And busy.
Welcome, Wedly.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, I love the backdrop. I'm a tree girl, so I love the nature walks, but I see you are represented. I see Monique sent the memo out. Look at that.
Yes.
I love it. And you got the colors on, honey. Look at you.
Absolutely, scarlet and gray. So
yes.
My first question before I turn it over to my co-host is, I want to know when the OSU chapter started. And the reason I'm asking is because it was not there when I was there. And I feel like it's a conspiracy. So did y'all wait until after I left to make sure that NABJ made it to campus? When did this take place, Webley?
That's funny. So yeah, we started our chapter January 14th, 2019. And the reason why we started is because our co-founder and the first president felt like her classes weren't as diverse, you know. They were lacking, you know, minorities. It was, since we go to a PWI, you know, there isn't much diversity in the journalism program. So we do have a organization that's called BASCA, which is a organization where it's for Black communication students. But even though we had that organization, we also felt like, you know, we need one for the journalism students. So that is why we created our chapter. And yeah, so far so good. We've had a lot of speakers and we're growing as a chapter, and I'm really like where we're at right now. So yeah.
Awesome.
And in mentioning the most recent episode of No Filter with NABJ, I have to be honest and say that as I was listening to the discussion, it was not the Ohio State that I remember.
Yeah.
And that made me so very sad. But it also made me really happy to know that you were giving voice to the concerns of the Black students, Black men and women who are on that campus, to make it known that what is going on is not going, it will not continue. Yeah. And if you decide that you are going to continue some of those things, you're going to be called out. And so that's why I'm inviting, without giving, I'm trying not to give too much, because I really want people to go and watch the episode of No Filter on the NABJ-OSU Instagram account. Because even when it was over, I called my brother and I said, I'm sitting here watching this and I'm wondering, what's going on again? So I applaud you for not being afraid to voice your concerns and allowing others to do the same, and actually taking action, and not just getting on Instagram and or Twitter and tweeting about your concerns, but taking action to do something about it. And the guest that was on the show actually was a member of the student undergraduate student government.
Yeah, she was the president.
She was the president.
Yeah.
And so if you have the president speaking out about concerns for students of color, there's an issue. And she stepped down as a result. So please go and watch that episode, everybody, if you are watching. And how would you say how NABJ has shown support, in addition to hosting conversations like that, has shown support to other students? Like, since founding the chapter on campus, what are other ways that NABJ has been there as a support to students, specifically who are pursuing journalism?
Mm-hmm. One where we've done that is by inviting Black journalists in the field, especially local ones, just so they could be, I guess you could say, a role model for the journalism students. Because like Aisha mentioned earlier, sometimes she would be the only, Black person in the room, in the newsroom. And that's basically how our Black journalism students felt like too, working with the Lantern. They would be like the only Black students in the room. So things we've done is basically having guest speakers that are people of color in the journalism field. And we've also gone to different news stations. I believe we went to, I believe it's called the Cleveland.
Plain Dealer?
Yes. And then we also went to our local newspaper, which is the Columbus Dispatch. And we've also traveled with BASCA, that organization, visiting different organizations, we don't only want our journalism students to only have one option, just because they're journalism students doesn't mean, they have to go into the journalism field, because I was a communication student, but I was still, part of NABJ. So we really want to spread out our students in terms of giving them the option and the opportunity for them to test different waters in terms of like different industries, because I know several journalism students that didn't go the journalism field, not just because they felt that they couldn't do it, but because they felt as though they could do other things other than journalism. So yeah. And then I believe, we've started, we're going to bring back other students that currently graduated. So I believe we have at least 2 alums that graduated this past year that are working full-time. They're journalists, on TV and everything, and we're super proud of them. Shout out to them. And we're thinking about bringing them back just so, our upcoming journalism students could see, wow, they were in my shoes, a couple years ago. So it is possible for them to accomplish, being a journalist in the field and working and being on TV, because a lot of them want to be on TV and things as such. So yeah.
Okay. And I think, Lee, you were interested in knowing specifically if there were any challenges in terms of being a student chapter, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I was curious to know in terms of getting started, because I believe my alma mater, University of Tennessee in Knoxville, doesn't have a chapter at all. So I graduated in 2010, and I was like, I didn't know NABJ existed. So by the time I actually first realized there wasn't NABJ at all anywhere, I had already graduated, and it was like my first semester after graduation. So I guess my question would be is, what was it like getting started with the chapter, and how did it feel first, like those first few days, those first few weeks, just learning about the process of having a chapter in the first place?
Yeah, at first it was extremely hard. I'm not gonna lie. And hopefully we had support from the Black professors that are in the journalism department or communications department. Shout out to Jasmine Roberts. She's one of, the communication professors at OSU. But yeah, she helped a lot in terms of, creating the chapter and also inviting people and, setting up meetings and things. And I believe last semester we had a meeting with the president of the communication school. And it was a sit down where basically we had to talk to him about how we felt underrepresented as students in the program. And he was taking notes. He had his notepad and was taking notes about everything we were saying, how we felt that, when we're in class, we feel as though if the professor is white, that they're not giving us as much attention. Or let's say there's a group project, sometimes the white students feel as though, well, I don't want them to be my partner because they seem like they don't know what they're doing, and I get it, it's a PWI, but then again, Black students or college students in general shouldn't feel that they don't have support because we pay tuition too, we're paying tuition too. So we should get, as much support as the others are getting. But, till today, I don't think they're getting the support that, we deserve, which is why we created Black X Bold magazine, which is our own magazine that we created because there was some type of shady things going on with the lantern of our Black students. So we created Black X Bold magazine, and that magazine is for the people, for the culture. And it basically writes about student businesses and anything really related to the Black community. So that's literally our voice. And we're so happy to have them because when it would come to, let's say, writing an article about, police brutality or Black students not being heard on campus, and we would pitch it to the lantern and they would shut it down. But now we have Black and Bold magazine, and they're not even gonna take a minute to think about it. They're just gonna, push it in and write it and publish it. So we're really grateful for Black X Bold magazine. Yeah, so I would say in terms of getting support, it would definitely be from the Black professors, Black X Bold magazine, and I guess the president in a way, because I believe he is truly trying to, make the Black students in the program feel, that they're being heard and seen, and that I guess the school is there for them in a way. But even though he wants that, it's still not showing. And I'm not sure if it's because most of the professors in the program are also, white professors. I believe we only have 2 or 3 Black professors in our department. But yeah, which is another thing we brought up, seeing more, professors of color in our program because, having someone that doesn't look like us teach about a field that we're trying to get into doesn't really give us motivation. It's really not, pushing us to go into that field. But having a Black professor, teaching the course and telling you how it's like, then that gives you hope, which I was grateful enough to at least have. I believe I took all of them when I was back in undergrad. So
yeah. I'm hearing 2 very important points. And just how we mentioned earlier, the importance of seeing more Black journalists. You're making the case for us needing to see more Black men and women in the classroom on the college level. Okay, and us having our own resources on college campuses. So if it's not an HBCU, that it is important that we do have our own news outlets, our own publications. Because if not, you have the situation that you just mentioned where the already existing resource for students to be staff writers or just members of the staff it's not there. It's not there at all. There really is no opportunity.
I'm just listening to you. I remember when I was an undergrad, I didn't have any Black. I only had 1 Black professor. That was I was a Black studies minor, but we didn't have Black journalism professors. But what did help though was that we had a really great student paper, and the editor in chief was a Black, Black female Black student, and she was awesome. And I was there, I think it was just, there were 4 of us on the paper one time, and the other 2 Black students, they were all older than me, they were editors too. So we had each other to talk to. And if we had any concerns with Black related stuff, we would just go talk to, go to the Center for Black Studies and kind of work with that professor. Now at Northwestern, my experience was different because they have really great Black professors, Black instructors there who, there's no favoritism or anything like that, and that's not needed. But there are people who do understand the perspective and the necessity of telling certain stories and having those different voices. And that does help when you're, pitching projects or you want representation on campus, whether it's an event on campus that should be covered, or just, again, like you're explaining some of the challenges that you may be having, or forms of discrimination that you may be experiencing at a PWI. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that there's also the matter of understanding different, the different cultures and understanding things. For instance, Aisha, you just mentioned an example. One of my first stories that I wrote for the Lantern at The Ohio State University was about Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Okay, they were returning to campus. This is obviously a very big deal.
Yes.
When I turned in my story, and the editor changed the title to Alpha Phi Returns to Campus. They thought that it was appropriate to shorten the name of this organization that had not been on campus for Lord knows how many years. This is the big announcement that Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is returning. And when it hit the paper, so this was not digital yet. It's done. It's on paper. It's on the newsstands. And I was mortified. Yeah. And when I walked that paper, I think I skipped a class to walk that paper to the Lantern office to explain why you have put me in a horrible position. Because not only is this wrong, they're not going to understand that I didn't make up the that I don't get to pick the title. This is not me. So I say that to say, Wedly, I'm so sorry to hear that the journey, the fight continues on campus, because I graduated all these many years ago, and now here we are, and I'm really sad to hear, but happy to hear that you do have, if you could say the name of the publication again, for anybody that is thinking about attending the Ohio State University. I don't want to deter you, because there is an outlet for you. And just if you could repeat the name of the publication.
It's called Black X Bold Magazine, and their tag on Instagram is Black X Bold and then NABJ.
Okay. Wow. Yes.
And also, funny story, Monique.
Okay.
About your Alpha Phi Alpha article. So I actually did get published from the Lantern too. And I believe when I submitted, my article, the title was completely different from what they, published. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of confused because my title was, something along the line like, the strength of a Black woman, or I think it was something like that. And then when they published it, the title was Ohio State alum, where she's at now today, something like that. And I'm like, what? I'm like, the whole purpose of the article is talking about how, this lady basically, how she was raised in poverty and, the hood. And now she graduated from OSU and now she's doing good in life. But the way the title was, I guess, worded,
just kind of diminished her story and
basically
and her yeah.
Now, were you on the student paper? Were you a staff member on the paper?
Oh no, I was just the marketing chair for NABJ.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that does to have more of us there. I know I was also an editor, and you had, you try to recruit to have a diverse voices like, okay, you're Muslim, you're Latina, okay, you're Afro-Latina, okay, you're this and that, just to try, so people can understand, because you need that diversity because it reflects the campus and people who have different perspectives. So what you and Monique experienced will not happen again. Someone will understand the importance of that headline. And Monique, I mean, at least if it's Alpha throughout the article, something should have told you behind that said, especially when there may be a fraternity named Alpha Phi.
Okay, well, let me just say, since we just went there is a white sorority called Alpha Phi. So, I mean, it was just a bad day for me. It was a bad day when that hit the stands. And I
get it. Monique,
honey. Yes.
Your story reminded me of, just because, again, there's not, on a campus, on a PWI, oftentimes there isn't a lot of Black representation working for the student paper, and we got paid. I'm like, so that was another thing. That's where I got my little money from. But you do form these relationships with all the Greek organizations because they're trying to they have parties or whatever events that they're throwing. They're always coming to you with different things. So I could imagine how mortified and you felt, because they're looking at you like, wait a second, I trusted you with blah blah blah, and this happened. I feel the pain.
Yes, yes. Well, to make sure we do end this on, a productive and positive note, Wedly, I want to make sure, even though, again, I was mortified, let's just be very clear. If you could leave the incoming students with either some advice, or if you were to have one final sit down, because I know you're no longer a student and you're headed to bigger and even better things that you can tell us before we close out.
Okay.
But what would you say to administration in terms of what your experience entailed and how you would like for it to be different for those who come after you?
Yeah, I would say to administration that, us, the students, we really do feel underrepresented at OSU. And not only that, but we also feel as though, the white professors don't care much about us. So I would definitely say hire more people of color in terms of staff and people within the department. And also, there's a weekly newsletter, I guess you could say, that the communication school sends out, including us in that newsletter. Say, hey, NABJ is having a meeting, go ahead and support. Like, Black and Bold magazine is there for Black students, because if no one is, I guess you could say, spreading the awareness that, we're on campus and we're there, then no students will basically know about us. Because I know there's a lot of Black journalism students, but they don't know about us because we're not being promoted. We're not, it's always the Lantern or PRSSA, which I was a part of, which is like.
But you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta do what you gotta do. And speaking of PRSSA, I was the only, and I was on the executive board too, but I was the only Black person in that organization. And I believe we had over 100 members, which was like crazy, mind blowing. But I like breaking barriers, so that's the reason why I joined. But yeah, I would definitely tell them to show more support to the Black students, because with the support, I believe it'll be easier for us to break into the field, because I had to do a lot to get where I am today. And it was really exhausting, but at the end of the day, I'm glad that I fought, because if I didn't really, network or join several organizations to get to know people, then I don't think I would be where I'm at today. But I feel like it's not fair either, though, because I've known students, white students that were in the same major as me, and they didn't do much as me in terms of like getting internships, networking. And they graduated and boom, they landed a job so easily. And that baffled me so much, because I'm like, okay, like what is this? You know?
Listen,
So
you get ready to
look,
take us into a whole nother episode.
well, I'm gonna say,
A whole nother episode of Find Out Who Is That.
now, before you end it, Monique, I want to say this.
No,
look,
go ahead.
the event that we're putting on, that I'm a part of the committee that where our President Brandon Pope and Brenda Butler, former presidents, and we're working with DePaul University because we're answering. We have some decision makers in newsrooms who are Black, who are going to be on this panel answering questions like that, because that's you brought up something that happens in this industry. It was happening when I was when I was coming out. I'm like, well, she got you don't know, she can't, huh? What? And you see, I'm like, well, I looked at my resume and I knew my resume at the time. I had my little logos, I was learning, I knew how to do Adobe and Quark, and I had, because Quark was a thing back then.
We have to work twice as hard.
Good resume can walk in mediocre, and I mean, and there are people who are very skilled. I'm not taking away from those individuals who are very talented and skilled, but generally for us, it's like you have to have this long resume to even get this tiny position where someone could walk in with a very thin resume and boom, they're given a chance. And those are the type of biases that we will be discussing. That needs to be brought up. Even in your newsroom, you need to point these biases out because maybe they are unconscious. Maybe they've been doing it so long and the industry has been like that. They're unaware that, you do see the issue with this. Unfortunately, I'm not for the unfortunate events of George Floyd being killed and all of that. I think there's some awareness that has the silver linings, that there's some more awareness about that, and more people. I hope there's awareness and it's not this faux concern, but I think that it's being brought to their attention at least. Hey, hello, this can't go on. Right. So I know I just jumped in, but you just reminded me of something that I had to address.
No, that's a great point. But yeah, definitely providing more resources to the Black students on campus, because the school of communication, they do have the money and they do have the money to provide it to. So just provide it to the Black students and we'll be fine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to put your next chapter, the next school, on notice. Okay. That we hope to not see the same activities. So just let everyone know where you are headed next before we wrap up.
Okay, so I will be heading to DC next year. I got accepted into Georgetown University, and that's literally my dream school. I can't wait to go there, and I'll be getting my master's in public relations and corporate communications. I'm really super excited because
you see that smile?
Yeah. I know, look at you.
Just glee.
Really, I don't know. I doubted myself because as a first generation college student, I really didn't think I would get it, especially as a Black student also. But, like I said, I really did work a lot to get where I am today in terms of getting internships, being involved. And my resume is like 2 pages. So I'm so happy I got in, and I can't wait to move to DC next year.
Oh, I love it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We are excited for you. It does make all of that, the sacrifice, the hard and heavy days of everything that you go through, it makes it worth it. But it should not be the case. However, attending Georgetown University, moving to DC, are both very exciting next steps, and you should be very proud because hey. You worked hard, like you just
did.
You worked hard.
Thank you.
So we thank you for joining us for this episode of Wind Down Wednesday. Aisha, Lee, did you have any final thoughts about our discussion? Because as you see,
I share mine.
We can pull out. Yes, there's a lot we can pull out from tonight's discussion. But are there any final thoughts about anything we talked about tonight? If not, no pressure now.
I'm just saying, it's just something I'm listening. I'm listening to you talk about your experiences and how I had those stories. People, 20, 30 years ago had those same types of stories, and it's ridiculous. But the only way, it's ridiculous. But I think, being, speaking up, being persistent, not, being very intentional and, in what you're doing and why it's necessary, because representation is important, proper representation is important. I think in just speaking up, those things are important, but it's just, I roll my eyes that this is still something that we're enduring. It's crazy.
Yeah, it shouldn't be this way. It really shouldn't. And I need change. I don't know, like, I really want to know what could be done in terms of like supporting those students, because it literally shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't be this hard for someone.
I was going to say NABJ that I would have to say that you are glad that NABJ was there through all of the trials that you experienced on campus versus not having NABJ there as a support throughout your journey. So again, we talked about the importance of seeing more Black journalists. We need more Black educators on the college level. Yes. And NABJ serves a very necessary purpose in being on college campuses, to be there as a support for students like Webley. It could have been for me on that day. On that day, honey, that they printed my story wrong, but I didn't have any NABJ to come and advocate for me. But again, nothing could have been done. I digress. But Webley, we thank you for joining us for this August episode of Wind Down Wednesday. And please do always feel free to come, over to our digital spaces to say hello. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as you know, and we will do the same to make sure we continue to show support for the NABJ OSU chapter.
Will do. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was very interesting. I enjoyed the topic. Yeah, I enjoyed the conversation.
We tried.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank
you. Thank you.
All right, Lee, Aisha, I will see you on the text message.
I know.
Good night, everybody.